The hoopla that is Carnival, with monster floats, larger-than-life figures, lights, and animation that tantalize and engage crowds screaming for throws, all grew largely out of the dreams of an Algiers kid who loved to read.
I read H.G. Wells, Arthur Conan Doyle, Jules Verne, Edgar Rice Burroughs. I was going to the moon before Sputnik.
Blaine Kern, the float builder that Rex, the king of Carnival, officially recognized as Mr. Mardi Gras in 1988, built a multi-million-dollar business that brings Mardi Gras parades to tens of millions of people.
All over the world, they're doing now floats. We're going to be doing down in Mexico for Six Flags. We're going to be doing them in Toronto.
There's literally parades going on every single day. You know, somewhere in these theme parks in Japan, in Korea, China, all over where we've done this.
The Kern business empire grew out of the beginnings of this organization, the Crew of Allah. But in the beginning, it was incredibly humble. It looked nothing like this.
My grandfather, Roy Kern, he built the first float on the back of a garbage wagon in 1932.
40 guys marched on that one parade from the Algiers Ferry to the Gretna Prairie. And that was how Allah started.
At 19, when Blaine's mother needed surgery, Dr. Henry LaRocca, the captain of Allah, told him he could pay for it by painting a mural of the history of medicine on LaRocca's Algiers clinic. The physician was so impressed by the mural, he asked Blaine to build Allah's floats.
And it was a smashing success.
All of a sudden, everybody in New Orleans was talking about how the poor people in Algiers had nicer floats than what was going down St. Charles Avenue.
So Darwin Feder, the captain of the most prestigious carnival club, Rex, recruited Blaine and sent him to Europe to study the great float builders there.
They had these big figures, you know, with the moving eyes and the hands that moved. And so he was able to study that technique.
Mardi Gras historian Errol Laborde says Rex was looking kind of tired in the 1950s when Fenner brought in Blaine.
Oh, God, it was more than tired. I mean, really and truly. And the main deal is that it was closed. You had to be a WASP. You couldn't even be Italian or Jewish or forget black. In other words, you couldn't join these crews. So what I did was I opened up Mardi Gras to everyone.
Blaine made dramatic changes in the look of the parades, with gigantic figures on floats, animation, and lighting. And he opened Carnival to crews that couldn't afford to own their own floats.
I started renting floats. I started the crew of Gorilla. I started the crew of Homus in Houma, Louisiana.
He says he started 38 crews in New Orleans alone. And when Mardi Gras seemed to be losing energy, he was a key player in the creation of the super crews, Orpheus, Endymion, and the first one, Bacchus, in 1968.
The idea was, let's make it a really big parade with big floats. I mean, bigger than anything anybody has ever seen before. And then let's have a celebrity as king.
Among the early celebrities, Kirk Douglas and Blaine's favorite, Bob Hope.
What a great guy. Bob Hope kept getting me people for Bacchus. I'd call him on a phone.
Among his least favorite, Henry Winkler, who was trying to escape his Fonzie image from Happy Days and only reluctantly met the winner of a local Fonzie look-alike contest.
Oh, I had a couple of them with jackasses.
But the super crews had super impact, bringing tons of out-of-towners to Mardi Gras.
It was like dynamite. Everything exploded.
He says before the super crews, the industry had an impact of $250,000 a year in New Orleans. A Tulane study in 2014 said Mardi Gras now has an economic impact approaching $500 million.
All of this Blaine Kern was part of.
In the 20th century, he certainly has the greatest impact on Mardi Gras, not only in the way that it looks, but frankly in his work with helping the crews. I think he brought Mardi Gras to the masses.
In 2010, a power struggle between Blaine and his son Barry threatened to damage the business and disrupt Mardi Gras.
And this would have been a crisis. And in fact, we know that representatives from Rex and Endymion got together with the Kern family and tried to resolve this.
The Kerns finally settled their dispute with a legal agreement in 2015. Now, the next generation, Barry's son Fitz, is getting involved. And a robot they call Pixie is sculpting figures for floats, like this huge duck.
It's going to be another quantum leap in what we're able to do.
Meantime, Blaine is busy illustrating a children's book that his wife Holly is writing. At age 89, Mr. Mardi Gras is still creating art. Dennis Woltering, Eyewitness News.